This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Dog, and welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day was a famous day. You know, August 8th was when Beijing decided to open the Olympics. 8808, because, 8 is a lucky number in Chinese culture. But we're not talking about the Beijing Olympics and all that. Yes, they had the best opening ceremony in history. We all know that. But the fact of the matter is that when trying to realize ahead of time what I remember most August days as a 8-8 and then like 8-8-88. That can't be an event happening on 8-8-88. Well, mister, you were fucking wrong. Sorry, that's just me talking to myself. I found out that, yeah, August 8th was a special day in history. It was the day that the Chicago Cubs finally decided to have lights at Wrigley Field. Now, there are some misconceptions that I do want to clear up. The first misconception is that the Cubs always didn't want lights in their building at Wrigley Field. That's false. They actually were close to having lights for the 1942 season. Well, remember, lights and night baseball were just coming to the light. 1935 was the first time that baseball got those lights. So Cubs had a chance in 42, but because of the Pearl Harbor attack, the Cubs gave their lighting equipment to the U.S. military. By 1948, they were the only team not to have lights. That is weird. The club refused to add lights that would allow them to play. So, anyway, times were changing and all that. Now, the Cubs always played games in the daytime, and they weren't really the best teams and all that. A major example was in that 1969 Cubs collapse against the Mets. There were a couple of reasons why the Cubs collapsed, and yes, the Black Cat was one of them. But remember, the Cubs actually played a pretty good September, being I think 3 games above 500. Maybe serves me right. But the Mets had to play like almost a 750 clip, or winning 3 out of every 4 games in September to catch the Cubs. And then you got yourself the fact that the Mets played a lot of their home games at night and the Cubs played in the afternoon. The Cubs were not accustomed to playing nighttime games unless they were on the road. So the fact that the Cubs always seemed to play good games in the afternoon was one thing, but at night they just shut off in a sense. So that was huge and all that. The Cubs had an issue. They had an organization called CUBS, or Citizens United for Baseball and Sunshine. The Wrigley Field, the Phil neighborhood banded together to fight the Cubs' new owners, the Tribune Company, to install lights at Wrigley. They said that there were a lot of problems caused by the day games. They'd be worse at night and all that. So anyway, the Illinois legislation and Chicago Council banned night games at Wrigley Field. That was fantastic and all that. Then came the 1984 season, in which the Cubs actually won the NL East, their first trip to the playoffs in 39 years. The only issue was that in 1984, postseason games were sometimes played at night, especially World Series games. So that caused a wrinkle. If the Cubs were to make the 1984 World Series, all their games would have to be played during the daytime, as it seemed. Now, there was a TV pact. ABC and NBC had a $1.2 billion pact at the time. Well, $1984, of course, at that time, which called for primetime World Series games. And if the Cubs won the NLCS against the Padres, they would potentially host 4 of the 7 games in the World Series. Because of the lights issue, Commissioner Kuhn actually came up with a compromise. If the Cubs reached the World Series, they could have their home games, but they would be in games 3, 4, and 5, mostly during a weekend, which meant that, it would be probable to show daytime baseball on a weekend, and MLB would pursue the primetime weeknight TV slots. It was shocking, though, too. But, of course, the Cubs didn't get to the World Series. They lost to the Padres in the LCS. The last LCS that was 5 games instead of 7. People forget that the LCS was never a best of 7 since 1969. It was since 85. Of course, as a Blue Jay fan, you're going to be pissed off that they changed the rule in 85, the year that the Blue Jays choked the 3-1 series lead in the LCS against the Kansas City Royals. Granted, maybe the Jays would have lost the World Series to the Cardinals, but, I would have taken it for what it had. And here's the thing, though, too. A little bit off topic, but anyway. That would have made Ozzie Smith's home run off Tom Newdefuer in Game 5 of the NLCS in 85 more memorable. It would have been a pennant-winning home run instead of a game-winning home run. And then, of course, Game 6, Cardinals beat the Dodgers on Jack Clark's home run in the ninth, top of the ninth. So the Cubs had issues. So in July of 1985, the Cubs said that to their season ticket holders that there's a financial limitation in Wrigley. And that if the Cubs got to the World Series, they would not be playing at Wrigley Field. They probably would have to play in a neutral site, in a sense. So it looked like the Cubs would be playing postseason games in Milwaukee and St. Louis, possibly, because they're closer to the Chicago area. I'm actually shocked that they couldn't get to a chance for Comiskey Park. But anyway, that was the thing. That the Cubs fans were not too happy and all that. There was a lot of problems. So the Cubs had issues. So anyway, the Cubs had problems. If they would make the postseason, they had to play in a neutral site. The Chicago City Council voted in 1988 to actually allow 8 night games in the 88 season and 18 future seasons. So the Cubs got their stadium in 1988. They got the lights. Of course, the Wrigley neighbors were bitter about night baseball, but still, I mean, if you don't like it, just freaking move. That's what some of them did. So August 8th, 1988, the Cubs were playing the Phillies on a Thursday evening. And that would be the day that the Cubs will officially make the lights go on. A 96-year-old fan who allegedly had been watching Cub home games since 1906, remember this is 1988 at the time, for 8 decades, actually was allowed to let there be light, and the lights came on. The game was memorable, as Morgana actually made an appearance trying to kiss Ryne Sandberg. It actually worked, as Ryne Sandberg would hit a 2-run home run after her appearance, and the Cubs were winning 3-1. But then the rains came. After 4.5 innings, the game would have been official, but the rain hit in the top of the 4th. After a couple hours of rain delay, no game could be played. So the records were kept, but no one won technically. So yeah, so the players' individual stats counted, but not the teams. Well, Take 2 would come the next night in front of an NBC national audience as the Cubs took care of the New York Mets in the first really official night game. So yeah, Wrigley Field had lights, and Cubs had postseason baseball at home at nighttime. It was good. Everything happens for a reason. That's what I say. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adu.